But first of all, welcome, Jake. Have you had a good day so far?
Yeah, thank you for having me on. I appreciate this opportunity to speak and talk to you. And I've honestly, I've been very interested in your content for several months now. I'm not going to claim I've been, you know, following you for like years or anything like that. But for several months, I've been interested in your content. So I appreciate you having me on today.
Oh, cool. It's my pleasure. Like I said, I think that you and I are probably having a similar journey.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know this. I tend not to talk about it, but I did inquire Eastern Orthodoxy between the period of starting from COVID up until maybe a year ago. I haven't been able to go to the parish that I used to go to just because my travel schedule has been absolutely crazy. But I'm quite familiar with Eastern Orthodoxy, so it's going to be interesting to hear your perspective and what you find beautiful there and what you struggle with.
Awesome.
But before we get there, maybe you can just tell us about your religious upbringing, if you've always been a Christian and specifically a Lutheran.
Yeah, so I was raised in a Christian household. My mother grew up in LCMS Lutheran her whole life. My father is actually me and my sister were both born in Staten Island, New York. My father as well is a New York native from Brooklyn. So to probably most people's expectation, a Roman Catholic he grew up. He married my mother, and I don't know where the conversion to Lutheranism for him was in his life, but he did marry my mother, and he is now a Lutheran as well at LCMS Lutheran. So my entire life, I was baptized an infant as an LCMS Lutheran. I think like 3 months after I was born. And I grew up going to the Lutheran church. Now, I didn't grow up. I'm trying to think how to word this correctly. I didn't grow up like understanding every aspect of the scriptures. Like I wasn't the kid. I was the kid who went through confirmation, and I guess catechesis is what it would be known in the Orthodox Church. Not even understanding our kind of, I guess, not fully comprehending is the word I'd rather use there. Like that there even is a debate between communion being truly present or just simply symbolic. Like I didn't even know that stuff. I didn't know that in-depth stuff. I grew up just going there with my family every Sunday, and that was that. And I did it my entire life. There was a point in my life. Now, I do want to preface this before I go any further. I hope I don't say anything that offends other Christian denominations or anything like that. Like I've had some different experiences in my life that I've realized were not for me. So I hope that does not offend like any other Christian denominations in here. Just being factual about my story. I went to about a year and a half of contemporary worship, non-denominational churches, I think is what they go by these days. And again, I was going through that, just enjoying my life, not realizing anything about it. Went to college. I'm no longer in person in college. I left college after 1.5 years at in-person school and was really not a great person there. Rushed Greek life and all that stuff. Just not being just not being a good person. Not things I'm not going to say here on your TikTok live. And I don't know, something a year and a half later just kind of like snapped in me. I mean, some people have that exact moment in their testimony, like, oh, like, I attempted this or I did this or something happened here. And now that's when I started following Jesus. For me, I don't really have that moment. It's kind of just a blur. I just kind of transitioned from, okay, here I was at school doing all this stuff. The next thing you know, I got into more entrepreneurship things rather than degree things at school, and really started taking my faith seriously, like actually learning about the faith, actually, understanding what am I doing at church every Sunday? What am I believing, etc. So yeah, after a rough year and a half as a young college male, I finally decided to lock in, I guess you could say.
And I appreciate that because sometimes, and by the way, don't even worry about offending people because my followers here, they can handle it. I have Catholics on here, Eastern Orthodox. I had an Anglican priest who was rage baiting the Catholics so hard. and they just think it's fun, you know.
Awesome.
Sometimes people are in the comments and they're just joking with submit to Rome and
Yeah,
that.
no,
But
I see it. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure nothing I said was, yeah.
you will feel right at home here, man. So,
Okay.
but I like that you've always been a Christian your whole life. You know, sometimes I talk to people and they go, well, you know, I joined a gang member and I lost my faith or whatever. I said,
Yeah.
well, that's a cool story, but it's a better story to have been a Christian your whole life.
Yeah.
That means that Christ has been able to keep you safe and secure, you know.
Mhm.
But you did mention, and I want to ask you, you mentioned a debate regarding the true presence of Christ in the Eucharist. Is that a debate within the LCMS or the more liberal-leaning Lutherans?
No, I meant like a debate between, like, for example, like Lutherans and non-denominationals. Like I meant like a more broad denominational debate, not within the LCMS. That's what I meant by that.
Gotcha. Okay, because I was born and raised in a Lutheran country in Sweden, right? So and many of the Lutheran friends there are kind of liberal leaning, so there's debates on different things, and you know, so
Yeah, I know about the other Lutheran, the other side of the Lutheran Church, the E1. So
the dark side.
yeah, I guess you could say the dark side of the Lutheran Church. Yeah.
Now, what's your I mean your honest opinion, right? Like, what went wrong there with what's it called? ELCA or what is it?
ESEA, yeah. Well, I was actually talking to my LCMS pastor the other day about this at dinner. I think it was in 1974, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that. I think 1974. I think it was just a split over if it was necessary to follow Luther's confessions within the liturgy. If I'm not mistaken. I'm not an expert on that topic. I want to put that out there. But I'm pretty sure it was a disagreement on whether to follow Luther's confessions to the T, to the crisp, in liturgy, in church, etc. And I think, actually, believe it or not, the ECLA one was the conservative side at first, and I think there was sort of like a quote unquote party switch later in life.
And it's the ELCA that signed the joint declaration, I believe, with our Catholic friends regarding the doctrine of justification, whereas the more confessional Lutherans did not sign on to that. I will ask you more about grace and justification later on, but okay, awesome. Are you high church Lutheran, by the way, or is it more?
Yes, very, very. Like I told my mom the first time. Well, my mom goes to a different Lutheran church than me. But I told my mother the very first time I attended this Lutheran church that I go to, I was like, this is in my opinion, like, obviously I don't know jack about what happened 500 years ago, but in my opinion, if Luther like established a church, like, I think it would be this one. And yeah, but
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm kind of I lean like too high for most Protestants. Right?
yes,
It's like it's a weird, confused state. Like, you know, the Lutherans, right? The Reformers. They're like, well, we don't like the Pope, so we're gonna turn here to the Eastern Orthodox, and then they say, well, you're too much like the Papists, and the Orthodox turn around and say, no, you are too much like the Papists. So you're in this weird. You're sandwiched in between the traditions, right?
what? Wait, didn't I feel like what did Luther say on his Reformation meeting? What, like, that he sides with the Greeks or something, the Gentiles? I feel like my buddy told me that.
Well, yeah. I mean, he said something about the Greeks have remained the true church or something,
Yeah,
right?
something like that. Yeah.
But then the next generation of Lutherans, they found out that they were too
Yeah.
much like the Papists, and so
Yeah.
that didn't work out, and the Protestants have lived depressed ever after.
Yeah. Awesome.
Okay, so let's get into this. I want to talk about your personal journey, and then we're going to talk about some of your struggles and some of the things that you find beautiful with the Orthodox faith, and where you're at and how you're moving forward in your journey with Christ. So, people, thank you for tapping the screens and ask questions in the comments here. First question to you, Jake. What does it look like to follow Christ? You've been a follower for quite some time now.
Yeah. To me, following Christ is to me, it is more than just saying, hey, I'm a Christian. To me, it is living out your faith on a daily basis, to no matter the situation, the trial, the tribulation, the struggle, the suffering you may be going through, to not give up on the practice of the faith. To me, it is to receive Christ fully, which is why the Eucharist is some of the most important parts of my faith, if not one of the most important parts of my faith. But it is, and this kind of was established for me. I think I've decided on this type of belief that I have, after dropping out of school and coming home, to just kind of become more a content person, is, it's to practice the faith and not just say, hey, I'm a Christian, I believe in this guy Jesus, I'm going to go do whatever I want, and then just say, hey, I believe in Jesus. But it's to struggle daily to, I think it says it perfectly, and I think this is something that all denominations can agree on, whether Protestant, Catholic, Orthodox. When Christ says to crucify your flesh and carry your cross daily, I think that explains what being a Christian to me is perfectly.
And how has following Jesus changed you personally, the way that you see yourself, the way you see others and interact with the world? What did you used to be like, and how far has Christ taken you, right?
Yeah, to me, it's definitely softened my heart. I'd say that's the term. I've said that term so many times to people around me in my circle and people I've talked to and stuff like that. It's definitely softened my heart. I kind of look at people around me kind of in this aspect of everybody has a battle they're fighting. I mean, it may sound corny, it may sound cringy, but that's what kind of Christ has led me to. Because again, in college, I was I'm going to keep referring back to college probably a lot during this debate, because it would, or not debate, I'm so sorry, this discussion. I was just not a good person. My thoughts, my words, my actions, all of it, anything you could say about a person, that the college was wrong. So for me, it definitely softened my heart in a way of looking at the people around me just as all of them being brothers and sisters of mine, regardless of race, ethnicity, religion, whatever it may be. Always understanding that, people have a battle they're fighting, etc. I was a judgmental person. I was definitely not a person that, treated people with respect, I guess, for lack of a better term. I judged people a lot, and yeah, I'd say it's softened my heart towards other people and towards the situations I'm in, etc. More gratitude. I'd say those are the big things.
Yeah. Same story, man. I used to be very bitter, hateful, judgmental, condemning guy. And that is why the doctrine of grace is so important to me, because I discovered that God has given me tremendous grace and mercy so that I can be gracious to other people. I want to get into your journey now to Eastern Orthodoxy. And I will bring up one of the questions in the comments here in a second. But I do find that, a lot of Lutherans or Anglicans tend to, well, maybe Anglicans tend more to go back to Catholicism, but a lot of Lutherans tend to inquire Orthodoxy. And maybe one of the reasons is that we have the papal beef. So we go to Orthodoxy instead. But someone asked, before I ask my question, someone asked in the comments, do you venerate icons? And if so, why?
I do. Yes, I do venerate icons. And I think even as a high church Lutheran, I have friends around me that venerate icons as well within my high church Lutheran circle. I do venerate them for the purpose of honor, not worship. I think an Orthodox or a Catholic would agree with me on this. I venerate them for the purpose of honor, not for worship. I think depicting an image of somebody to honor them, to venerate them, is not a problem. And even as a high church Protestant, I should say, I've been able to come to that conclusion, and definitely in my circle of friends, not the only one. I'm slowly building up my icon corner in my house. And I don't know, now that I'm 20, funny story, now that I'm 22 years old, going on 23, I mean, my family's asking me what I want for Christmas. I mean, I'm not going to say any more toys like a little kid. So I sent my dad the link to Legacy Icons, where all those icons are like $9. Like, so yeah,
Legacy Icons, they're pretty cool. Good price.
beautiful site. Yeah. It's crazy. They got like any icon there. Like I mean, I searched up some of the most like some saints or something that like not a lot of people have heard of or probably aren't that popular amongst like the main saints or whatever. And they got icons of them too. It's crazy.
Yeah. I find it crazy. Like people like Eduardo in the comment section say say that's breaking the first commandment. It's idol worship. No, I have to say this all the time. If I would take one of the pictures of my wife, which I have in my bookshelf here, and I would kiss the picture of my
Yeah.
wife, would that be me worshiping that picture? Or if I kissed my wife like physically, would that be me worshiping my wife? No.
I find it funny too. Me and my buddy were talking about this exactly the other day. Actually, I'll bring up my friend a lot. I have a Lutheran friend who is 10 times smarter than me. Like this guy is like the Jay Dyer of Lutheranism. Obviously that's a little bit stretched, but in my opinion, he's so smart. Yeah, we were talking about this the other day, and he was like, you know, it's funny, the ones who hate the veneration of icons and the use of icons are usually the ones that are going to start setting up their nativity scenes in their houses for Christmas this year. So we were kind of talking about that the other day.
There's three reasons why icon veneration is not worship. Because the commandment says, just to address the comment here, the commandment says, "Thou shalt not worship graven idols." So number one, a kiss is not a worship. Number two, an icon is not graven. Number three, the image of Jesus Christ is not an idol. And shame on you for calling Christ an idol, blaspheming Jesus. But anyway, okay. Let's move on here. So, what sparked your first interest in Eastern Orthodoxy?
Honestly, it was about a little over a year ago now. So that's why I say I'm still fresh to, you know, learning about Orthodoxy and stuff like that. Like I'm not going to know like a you know, severely in-depth terms and doctrines and stuff like that, because I am still freshly new, and hence why I'm still a LCMS Lutheran. But what started it was really, I think it was, so about a year ago, I had a friend of mine, I had a friend who grew up a Romanist, and he recommended to me, and I told him I wouldn't become a Catholic, and he was like, okay, well, can I at least try to convince you on Orthodoxy if you're not going to become a Catholic? So this was about a year ago. He sent me this debate that Jay Dyer did. Are you familiar with Redeemed Zoomer? Yeah, he sent me this debate that Jay Dyer did with Redeemed Zoomer, and I watched this, and I was absolutely in shock. And again, I have no disrespect towards anyone. I don't want to speak of anyone disheartedly or unholy, but I feel like, you know, it's safe to say Redeemed Zoomer did not hold his own in that debate whatsoever. So I was absurdly shocked. So that sparked my I should say, my desire to, you know, inquire about the Orthodox Church. And I showed my dad, and my dad was like, well, just because somebody is good at debating does not make their position true. And I'm like, Dad, no, you've got to like watch this with me. So we go watch it, and after we're done watching it, he's like, yeah, I have nothing to say. Like it was utterly absurd. So from there on, I became really intrigued by it. I'd say that was like the main starting point, like just my friend recommending that debate.
Yeah, Jay Dyer is extremely smart. Now, I know you and we probably share the same opinion that Jay can be, like his attitude or style can be a little bit off-putting. I know that you did a video about that.
Yeah.
And the moment you say something about Orthodox apologists, Orthodox will gang up on you as if an apologist is a bishop or something, which he's not, you know. He's not infallible and he can make mistakes. But be that as it may, let's give credit where credit is due, right? I mean, Jay has done tremendous things for Eastern Orthodoxy, so kudos to him. But maybe if you can, like, are there certain things like experiences, conversations, readings, services, such as theology that most influenced your attraction to Orthodoxy?
So yeah, actually, I was going to get into this. I think it's pretty common for any I'll speak for males because I'm a man. I think any male would be attracted to the reverency of Orthodox worship. So instead of just saying, "Hey, I think Orthodoxy is cool," like I'm going to inquire about this, I started going to the local parish. I think it was a Greek Orthodox church. Yeah, it was Greek. And it was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I got addicted to going. I took off going to Lutheran church for several months to go to this church. I thought it was insane. I had like literally like this is gonna sound so non-denominationally of me. Like I know the Orthodox and the Catholics are about to hate on me and call me a low church Protestant for this, but I'm still gonna say it. Like I actually started like tearing up. I was like, this is genuinely like so reverent, so beautiful, and I got addicted to it, man. Like in a good way. Like I really enjoyed it. I really loved it. That was huge. Now, in terms of like other experiences,
I'm sorry, but I don't mean to interrupt you. You continue where you ended, but I can just say that I brought my dad with me to an Eastern Orthodox, not Divine Liturgy, but Vespers one of the nights, and he was born and raised Pentecostal, so he still speaks in tongues, right? So he he was in Vespers and he began speaking in tongues. So you're good, man. Having emotions walking into a church, I don't think that's anything wrong with it, you know? You go ahead.
But yeah, as far as like experiences and conversations, I had a conversation with the priest at the parish. Now I'm going to be honest with you, like, it wasn't anything special. Like I didn't walk out of that office with the priest and be like, yeah, I'm converting tomorrow. Like I didn't think it was anything special. Like so much respect for the priest, and I'm not trying to talk bad about any, servant of God like that, called servant of God like that, and super nice guy, amazing guy, but I just wasn't like, so drawn into the conversation. But the experience of the Divine Liturgy on Sunday was something else that really kept me intrigued into this.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely beautiful. It is. I don't know if you've seen my video, but I did a video about what my dream church would look like, and it would basically be like a Lutheran church with an Eastern Orthodox liturgy.
Yeah. I another thing too I should mention when I think architecture as well is something that really attracts people as well. The architecture definitely attracted me as well. The iconographies, all over the ceilings and the walls, and you have the altar and stuff like that. I think all doctrine and theological points aside, I just think the reverency of it is something else.
Yeah. Have you heard of the Eastern rites, the Byzantine Lutherans in Ukraine and Russia?
I have not.
So look into them. They're pretty cool.
I could probably put two and two together based on what you said.
All right. Well, I'm going to read this question here because it's a long question. What are some of the things about Lutheranism that's off-putting to you? Often Protestants inquire about Orthodoxy, but they compare the worst of their tradition with the hypothetical best of what the Orthodox tradition can offer. And so when they convert, they're disappointed to find out that there's problems in the Orthodox Church as well. It's not as maybe beautiful as you thought it would be. So the question here is, what do you love the most about Lutheranism, and what do you love the most about Eastern Orthodoxy?
Yeah, so the first thing that I kind of found off-putting was, some will probably say that I was just placebo affected into it, but the first thing that kind of off-putted me was, who developed my church, who developed my doctrine, and, I think it's common for a lot of Lutherans. If you want my personal opinion, I could be very wrong and I could just be an idiot, but I think a lot of Lutherans will start looking into Catholicism and Orthodoxy because they realize it was a man 500 years later in the 1500s, 500 years ago in the 1500s that really put all this doctrine and this church, I guess, together. I mean, I'm not saying that no man no flesh man has ever been involved in the setup of the church. That's not the argument I'm making. But, you look and it's like you had all these early Christians, before Luther. You had early Christians in the first, second, third, fourth, all those centuries. And it's like now all of a sudden you get this church and it's like, well, it's like, I don't know. And it's not something you can prove. It's not something you can be like, hey, like I am looking into the sky and I see Luther in heaven or I see Luther in hell. Like you can't prove that. So you're kind of sitting there like, am I like, who knows? Is this guy right or is he wrong? Like, so I think that's kind of where the first bit.
Right? Am I wrong? Right? It's
Yeah.
awful.
That's the first part that kind of scared me. And what I love about Lutheranism is I think Protestants get categorized into this category of Protestantism. So like, I know you've done tons of content with Jesus and whatnot and Catholic Sam. Those are some of my favorite creators. I absolutely love them. Regardless if they're Catholic or not, I absolutely love watching Jesus and whatnot, and I love watching Catholic Sam. They are two of my favorite creators on this app, and I see them a lot though, just as a lot of Catholics and a lot of Orthodox do, is they'll be like, oh, Protestants, and they'll make a dig at a Protestant, and it's the lower church Protestants that have no care for tradition, no care for the Eucharist, no care for the works of baptism, none of that. But it's like, dude, I don't fall in that category. Like I grew up in LCMS Lutheran, very reverent church, always believed in the true presence of the Eucharist. Now I know they're all going to say it's not a valid Eucharist because it's not given to you by a real priest. But, so I feel like the beauty of Lutheranism still comes in that traditionality aspect. I feel like, I know Catholics and Orthodox will never do this, but I wish they would acknowledge that there's a lot of Reformed higher church Protestants that do not side with all that stuff about, not caring about the Eucharist, not caring about reverent worship, liturgical style worship, etc. So I think that's a beauty of Lutheranism as well. You still get that style of traditionality. And I think, what was the last part of the question?
Maybe I'll just phrase the question there then, because I'm interested in knowing the theology wise what you would love the most about the Eastern Orthodoxy. Yeah, because you can say tradition, but you've already mentioned tradition in Lutheranism. So
theology, I think, in my personal opinion, and I've done tons of research on this and studying with my other LCMS friends, and honestly, we've all come to the conclusion that we think Luther was not correct on the intercession of the saints. I think there's no problem. I do this for anybody who might have asked it in the chat. I will ask intercession of the saints. Now, I will not pray to a saint and be like, hey, Saint Mary, like, please heal me or something like that. Like, I will not do that, but I will ask for intercession. I think that is a huge aspect of it. That was the main one. I was very hung up on that for a long time. I sat for a long time and really thought about that one. And now it is to my knowledge that Martin Luther has a very, very, very high regard of the Blessed Virgin. But I am as well in the camp that she is, I would say, sinless.
I was typing an answer to the a response to one of the questions there. Someone said, I'm confused. What do you mean? How do you ask for intercession without prayer? I think if I understood you correctly, you just made a distinction between like praying directly to Mary and asking her to do things. That's not what you do, but you're making a request to her to ask God on your behalf.
Yeah. Sort of like, and I know this is a huge debate in the whole Christian theology world right now, but I'll use the example that you've probably heard 1,000 million times and counting, but I don't see it as any different as me asking you to pray for me or you asking me to pray for you. I don't see it as any different in that. Now, I know there's a whole debate in the Christian world on what makes, what decides if the saints are alive in heaven or not. I believe they are. And that's kind of the distinction there is not, I think there's a difference between, the difference would be, like asking somebody on behalf to pray for you and not praying to them.
Yeah, and I think you're clarifying mostly for the Protestants in the comment here. Obviously, the Catholics and the Orthodox, they know that distinction, right? But many Protestants wouldn't know the distinction there, so I appreciate you clarifying that. Now, like I mentioned, I've been inquiring for some while, and there are some things that I just, for whatever reason, and I can't explain it, but for some weird reason, stupid reason, or good reason, I don't know. There are some things that I can't square in good conscience with at least what I believe currently, right? And it would be nice to just say, hey, I'm just going to trust the church here, that the church can't be wrong. That would lift a huge weight off of my shoulders, right? But then there's another part of me that goes, well, if the church cannot be wrong, like, isn't that an unfalsifiable system? Like, isn't that a setup to be able to err, but then at the same time kind of say that you can't? So am I wrong, or can the church be wrong? Like, how do you deal? Have you ever asked those questions?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's honestly what started my journey into looking out of Lutheranism, was actually not just because my whole life I kind of just went to Lutheran church because it's where my parents brought me. But I think every Christian, so like it's really, I think, a blessing to hear you as well say that you're in a similar situation of me. I think every Christian should want to challenge themselves, to challenge their beliefs. Now, that may be a hot take and an opinion that gets people going, but I, in my opinion, think that every Christian should challenge their faith, should question, why am I here? What am I doing here? There's 10 billion denominations, why am I at this one? Why? It would be a different story if we had universal church. You wouldn't have to question your faith. But I think with all the claims that have been made by reformers and different church fathers, etc., like, I think you got to question your faith in these days. I think you got to challenge yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And for the, we always get new guests. Some people leave and some people come on. So for the new guests here in the comment sections, Jake is LCMS, Confessional High Church Lutheran, inquiring Eastern Orthodoxy. And we've already talked about his personal journey with Christ. Now we're talking about his journey towards Orthodoxy, or maybe not a journey towards Orthodoxy, but at least his inquiry. And maybe some of the struggles. Maybe you can just talk about some of the things that you've struggled with. For me, it's been like invocation of saints, Mariology, and I think that's it.
Do you mean struggle like within being a LCMS?
To grasp, like, you think, is this right or is it not, right?
Yes. I think the number one thing I kind of struggle with was coming to the conclusion, and I am confident about this as I go through my inquiring journey, but I'm not as confident as I would like to be. The number one thing is Mariology. I think you said it. But I think that'll be for a lot of people these days, especially because of the difference in regard to the Blessed Virgin compared to, Protestants and Orthodox. And even as a high church Lutheran, I genuinely wish, I love high church Lutheranism very much. And I think it's very traditional. And I think people who try to group them with lower church Protestants, I think they're making a mistake. But one thing I do wish is the Mariology was a little higher. I do have a very high regard for the Blessed Virgin. And one of the things that severely upheld, there's two things. The first one is the Mariology, and one of them was determining if I think she is sinless or not. The second one, the second one's more of like a different topic, so I'll wait to answer that one. I'll just talk about the Mariology right now.
What the heck did I do? Now I brought up my wife here. I meant to send a commenter. Wife, the pacifier is in the car seat or at the entrance. She's been texting me here. Okay, look at the car seat. I'm gonna drop you here. Love you so
Love
much.
you.
Okay, sorry. Okay, Mariology, and then I lost my train of thought here. What else did you say?
Yeah, just coming to the conclusion if I believed she was sinless or not.
Yes.
And then the second thing that really sparked a look into Eastern Orthodoxy as well, to continue to look into that, was bishops and having authoritative bishops. Because I think a lot of times you will see in the Protestant churches, you know, I'm going to rat out my dad a little bit. Lord, forgive me for it. But, you know, my dad goes to a Bible study with his friends, and my dad's awesome. I love my dad. You know, he's awesome, and he's not like these lower church Protestants, but he does go to a Bible study with a friend who is on the lower church side. And they go and they study this Bible group, and all of them have different interpretations, and they can't seem to agree on one. So it's like, you know, Christ divinely, you know, God divinely inspired the Bible. There was one Bible written. You know, we don't have 400 million different copies of the Bible for 400 million people's different life situations. I think when Christ says something, he means it. I think Jesus Christ is the wrong person to question if he means something or not. I think if Christ, you know, himself says something, he means it. So it's like, where do we get all these people that, for example, look at the ECLA church. Like, there's so many doctrines in that church, like, you know, women pastors, women priests, you know, all these things, you know, gay pastors, gay priests. And it's like, where, you know, do we, maybe a bishop would be helpful. So that's like, yeah.
Yeah, and it's so tiresome. I wasn't alive yesterday, I believe, and all the people who came up was like, "Well, I'm just a follower of the way. I'm just a follower of Jesus. I just believe the Bible." I was okay. Well, I believe the Bible too. And one of them, he brought up like Exodus 30, where the sweet, fragrant cinnamon is like. I think that refers to the thing, you know. It's like, how do you know that? Well, that's what it says. Really?
Yeah.
Can you continue reading? It says that if this is anointing oil that should be applied to the tent of meeting, and it should be used by the Levite priests. And if it's used by anyone else, you shall be unalived. So if you're using that, according to Exodus 30 yourself, you should be unalived right now. I said, no, I'm just convinced that's talking about, you know.
Yeah,
This is
I've seen some of your videos before where you've stitched and duetted Taco Talks. Yeah, I just made a video stitching him the other day. He's like, he made a video. He's like, he just straight up says it. He's like, God hates the rosary. And I stitched it, and I was like, I'm not even a Catholic dude, but it's like, how do you know this? Like, how do you know what God is sitting up there thinking when somebody prays the rosary? And it's like, how does he know that God doesn't hate his prayer? How do I know that God doesn't hate my prayer? It's like, dude, how do you know this stuff? And so it's like, I've seen you stitch him plenty of times. So like,
when I stitch him, people think like, oh, you're siding too much with the Catholics. Well, not necessarily. I mean, I see where the Catholics are coming from. I just think that he makes Protestantism look stupid. And I wish he wouldn't do that, you know? Like you said, there are actually normal Protestants out there.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, I was talking to one of my LCMS pastor the other day, and I was telling him, you know, I had to go up to New York to see some family for my Nana's 100th birthday, and they're all devout Catholics up there, and he loved it. I mean, you know, he's a very traditional, high church, reverent Lutheran pastor, and you know, what he quoted Martin Luther. I'd rather have wine with the Pope than Bible study with a Baptist or something like that. I don't know.
I would rather have blood with the Pope than mere wine with the fanatics, and with the fanatics.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
The Methodists, I think you referred to, or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. No, Luther. I mean, he was a cool dude, right? Don't you think?
Oh yeah.
I mean, he was wrong, but also he was right on things.
Oh yeah. I think my opinion on Luther is very high. But again, I question the full authority of, like, you know, are too many people putting this guy on a pedestal to like where they are treating him like God, you know? That was always my question. Like, I mean, he's got a very I think some of his ideas were fabulous, but it's like there's so much debate about whether he was excommunicated correctly or not, or whether he actually removed the Deuterocanon, etc. It's like I don't know. It plays with my heart sometimes, where it's like, damn, I don't want to die one day and I meet God and he's like, why the hell were you following some dude who came 500 years, million years after I established?
Are you looking for Luther? He's in hell.
Yeah, it's like that's what scares me, man. That's what's like. I wake up every day with a battle going on in my head, like just being straight up honest with you. Like this, I think I had a friend that friend I was talking about who's extremely smart with church history. He got me really into it. He kind of was like, Jake, like this is a rabbit hole you don't climb out of once you get into it. And that's some of the most true words I've ever heard specifically for my journey. It's like, I'm addicted to this path, to this journey now. And, I don't know how long it's going to take, but I'll go with it as long as it takes.
Yeah, well, but to be fair, right? Like there were some valid concerns that Martin Luther had. Like,
oh yeah.
The Orthodox and the Catholics even agree on this.
Oh yeah.
Some things were wrong, right?
I'm getting to know pretty well on this app the Catholic Veteran, and I remember we were talking a little bit, and yeah, he said in one of his videos one time, like obviously that Luther had some valid concerns. Like I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think he had some very valid concerns, which is hence why I remain a LCMS Lutheran. I mean, if I didn't agree with the church I was at, I mean, I would have been an Orthodox. But I think the battle stays going on in my head because a side of me really does love the Lutheran Church. I also think medieval Rome gets a lot of hate. I think a lot of medieval Rome was atrocious and it was really, really bad. And I think a lot of Protestants these days use medieval Rome to try to shape all of Catholicism, all time. And I think medieval Rome was atrocious and really bad, the medieval times of Catholicism, but I don't think a lot of low church Protestants realize that they use it to try to form an opinion and grant that opinion to all of Catholicism.
Yeah, oftentimes when Protestants critique either Eastern Orthodoxy or Catholicism, it's just a critique against a misconception of it. Although there are some valid concerns that Protestants would have.
Oh yeah,
it's my opinion. But I know that in a private conversation between you and I, you had mentioned one of your major draws for you towards Eastern Orthodoxy was Apostolic Succession, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, many churches claim Apostolic Succession. Yeah, I don't know if you know this, but Swedish Lutherans claim Apostolic Succession. Mormons claim.
Yeah.
Moravians, Anglicans, whatnot. So what about the Apostolic Succession? Now, talk about Eastern Orthodox Church. What feels compelling there? Do you feel like they have a true, genuine continuity and that they've remained unchanged, or what do you feel about that?
Well, I think I was more uptight about it in the earlier stages of my inquiry because a lot of Orthodox and Catholics will use that against Protestants. Like that's a lot of times one of their main arguments against Protestants. So I think in the beginning, I remember when I didn't really quite know much about church history yet, I was talking to one of my Catholic friends and I was like, well, yeah, I believe Christ is truly in the Eucharist as well. But he's like, oh, well, you don't have the validity in the sacraments because you don't have apostolic succession. I'm like, what? Like, so I think it kind of scares a new inquirer at first, kind of thinking like, oh, I'm in the wrong spot here. Like, I don't have this. But I think once you get to know it, once you get to know the journey, I think like it's kind of like you said it perfectly. Like, I mean, you have Mormons claiming that they have living apostles on earth right now. So it's like a lot of people claim this. But for me, I think it's I think what first grabbed me to it was the fact that it's like historically traceable. I think going back to, even I still have debates about when Paul is establishing Timothy as a bishop. Like I still have like debates in my own head about what I truly believe about that section of scripture. But I think you go back and it's like you can determine it's historically traceable. I'm not a papacy guy, but I think you can determine that, there is equals in bishops and they are of apostolic succession. Now, what I've really come to hear a lot is the excommunication of the bishops because of the Reformation, which would be why Lutheranism wouldn't carry that apostolic succession. And that scares me. And to answer probably some people's questions, I don't know why it scares me. I don't know. I don't have proof if I have apostolic succession or not. Like I can't tell you if my pastor at church is of apostolic succession. I can't tell you if yours is. I don't know. And I think that's the part that scares me when a lot of them will talk about the excommunication of the bishops or the pastors or the priests in the Reformation time and stuff like that. And it's like, well, if that's the case, I hold to a doctrine that if you are excommunicated from the church, that's no good. So, yeah, that's the part that gets me, man.
I think the dilemma is this, and I'm just comparing Protestants with non-Protestants now, like Catholics, Eastern Orthodox, and Orientals, and whatnot. So here's the dilemma, right? Like they claim apostolic succession, right? There are other Protestants who also claim apostolic succession. Like I said, some Lutherans, Anglicans do, Moravians do, Hussites do, whatever, right? Now, the Catholics or Eastern Orthodox will turn around to the Protestants and say that your apostolic succession is not valid. Why? Well, because you departed from the faith once delivered, right?
I know where you're going with this, yeah.
You don't have, like, the apostolic succession is the mark of the true church. Now, the Protestants would turn to the non-Protestants and say, no, you actually drifted from the faith once delivered, so your apostolic succession means nothing. And it's both succession and succession of doctrine. Or some Protestants, like lower church Protestants maybe, would say apostolic succession doesn't matter at all. It's only succession of doctrine, and many Lutherans actually fall in that camp, right?
Yeah. They do actually, yes. That's one of my good friends definitely falls into that camp. I think I made a video one time when I was learning first about potential conversion to Orthodoxy, and it's like, they make a huge deal about the Reformation and stuff like that. I mean, I feel like they talk so much about the whole split from the church and stuff like that, but it's like the second you ask them about the Great Schism, they lose their mind on you. It's like, well, that one doesn't matter. That one doesn't matter. It's like, well, you're literally saying we don't have apostolic succession because we drifted away, but you guys had your own schism, and they come up with like 400 different ways to insult you if you ask about the schism.
So have you worked this out? I mean, do you feel like the Lutheran Church has the succession of doctrine? Like that's the most truth is in there? Or could you pick one, like Orthodox or Lutheran, like which one has the fullness of the faith?
Oh
you
man,
don't have to answer if you don't want to, by the way.
I don't think I could right now. I genuinely I don't want to sit here and lie to you to make myself sound cool or nothing. But I don't think I could. I really don't. Like I said, I wake up every single day like divided. Like
yeah, I like that answer, man. That's a good answer. I don't know is the best answer. People ask me all the time, "What do you think about this?" I don't know. Like if you would have asked it 5-10 years ago, I would have been convinced.
Yeah,
just in this theological agnosticism.
And I think a lot of people make a big deal about inquiring and stuff like that. But I think maybe a controversial opinion that I'll get some hate for, but I think it's okay to be confused. Like I think it's all right to be in a journey of practicing, a denomination and inquiring about another one or learning about another one. Now, I don't think necessarily denomination hopping is a good thing. I wouldn't say that, but I think learning and inquiring about a certain, denomination or whatnot, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing whatsoever. I think it's okay to be confused. I think it's okay to go through a process of questioning and challenging your faith. Now, I don't think you should be going to a Presbyterian church this weekend, then a Lutheran church next weekend, then an Orthodox church next weekend, and just be doing all that. But I think if you have genuine questions about potentially converting and inquiring, I think it's okay to be confused.
What's the apostolic continuity in the Lutheran Church? Like, you don't have to talk about apostolic succession if you don't think that you have it. Like, if I would ask a Swedish person that, maybe they would say, well, no, we have apostolic succession, right? But like, is there any historic continuity in the Lutheran Church?
Yeah, I'd say honestly, when I would defend the Lutheran Church, I'd say I believe they do have it. I'd say, whether as of right now, I'm kind of on the fence about it because, like I said, my inquiry, and I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for this, but I believe the Scandinavian Lutherans were actually some of the first to have it. Yeah.
If you can't tell, I'm Swedish, but all right. Yeah. But be that as it may, the Swedish Lutheran Church is like going to hell in a handbasket. So there's that.
Yep. Apparently, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we have atheist priests. How does that go together?
Yeah. I don't know. But I do think actually, when you talk about bishops and priests, etc., after the Reformation, I guess you could say, maybe even a little before it, I believe, from what I've read, the Scandinavian Lutherans actually might be some of the first with the term apostolic, not the term, with the idea and the practice of apostolic succession. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Read the history about Sweden, how Sweden was Christianized by the first missionary Ansgar, etc. Went from a pagan country to Catholic, and then the Reformation. Just very intriguing if you're like me, a history nerd. Okay, talked about the apostolic succession. Now we get to the meat of it, at least in my opinion. So people tap the screens. This has stayed on 8,000 likes for like an hour. Tap the screens here now. Be obedient and tap the screens and share this. And thank you for commenting in the comment section here. Mainly, again, it's just submit to Rome and people telling other people that they're heretics. That's Christian's favorite hobby. To just
do you have any Ethiopians that watch you?
I do, yeah, and I actually speak a little bit Amaringa. I've been to Ethiopia a lot, so I probably met more Orientals than I have Eastern Orthodox.
I'm really intrigued. I've yet to inquire at all. I mean, my only inquiry has ever been about the Eastern Orthodox Church, but I think it would be really cool to find out, like, from an Ethiopian, like, what do they have, like 82 books in their Bible, 81, something like that.
Yeah, 80 something. I don't know exactly. Yeah. They have Enoch, and they have I think they have First Clement. They have I may be wrong. Yeah. They're interesting. Of course, I think their Christology is a little bit whack. Of
course, yeah.
But, and it's very cultural thing. 88. I thought it was 88. I wasn't gonna say it. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you guys for tapping the screen. Now, this is my main thing, right? Faith alone, grace alone. I'm very passionate about that. I care about that very much. And first of all, you still affirm faith alone, or what?
Yes.
Okay. So how important is that we're saved by grace alone through faith alone to you?
Very important. Honestly, one of the two things that holds me away from fully my conversion of orthodoxy. Now, I will say, I want to preface first, I think when people make, derogatory comments to Catholics and Orthodox and be like, oh, haha, you have to buy your faith, or oh, haha, like, you have to work for your faith. Like, you sweat every day because you got to work for your faith. I think that's wrong, and I will not adhere to that type of doctrine. But I do think this idea that salvation comes from a works-based idea, I don't quite think that that's really a biblical thing. I guess you could say, nor, I mean, I even read Clement's first letter, first epistle or something, and I still adhere to faith alone even after reading that. And to me, I think, I'm trying to think how I can word this. I think the best way I can word this is Christ's death on the cross that's that. Like, I think that is that. There's no more that has to be done to save us. But I do think, and a lot of Lutherans attest to this doctrine, is you cannot go around doing whatever you want. You cannot go around living however you want. So I think, again, a lot of Catholics and Orthodox will say, like, oh, these Protestants just believe that they can live whatever life they want. They can do whatever they want. And it's like, again, stop grouping us higher church Protestants with...
Yeah, like I can already tell by the comments, right? There's a huge misconception here. Like Lutherans, and I'm going to compare Catholics now just because, so Lutheran and Catholics, they're so close when it comes to this. Like it's literally, the Catholics are saying we're saved by faith working through love, right?
Yeah.
And the Lutheran would say, okay, does works in and of themselves save? The Catholics say no. Okay, we agree. Now a Lutheran would say we're saved by faith alone because works do not save in and of themselves. So it's God saving us through faith. But that faith is a living faith that results in works. And we just say those works do not save us. Hence, God saves us through faith because God is the savior here, right? And so like that's how similar we are. We put the emphasis maybe in different places. And I think we can almost agree there are minute differences. And people give me, like, why do you care so much about these small differences? Well, I mean, you can talk about filioque, right? One word in the Nicene Creed. If we want to call this a small, minute difference, right? The Eastern Orthodox and Catholics can fight till they are, over one word, right? So when it comes to theology, I'm very passionate about theology. And I think the way that we emphasize things and the way that we say things actually matter,
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. I think, like I said, I guess I would go on to say I think you cannot, I think I agree with you is what I'm trying to say. But I also, like I stated before, I'll follow up with this again and just kind of add on to it. Part of me struggles with it because it's like, I feel like a lot of people will use it as like an excuse to do what they want. I feel like a lot of people will do that. And I don't think that's right either. Like I mentioned to you, like the very first topic we talked about on this live, I think being a Christian means to practice the faith, to live out the faith, to do works in faith. I think faith without works is dead. And I don't think if you do, I think people are like, oh, James says faith without works is dead. Yeah, 100%. I think your faith without works is absolutely dead. But I don't think that it's what determines if you're going to heaven or not. I think a lot of people love to, there's a lot of verses in the scripture that support a faith, grace alone aspect. A lot. And a lot of them, I think a lot of the debates I've gotten into with, potential people that would be in my circle if I converted to Orthodoxy is over all the verses in the scriptures that talk about faith and grace alone. And it's like, there's a lot that support it. Like they act like, I think a lot, again, I love Catholics. I love Orthodoxes. I love them all. And I promise I don't have the attitude like Taco Talks has. Like I love them all, but I think a lot of them will try to I think I don't know what I'm trying to say here. I think a lot of them will try to bring up James, but it's like I bring up so many other ones and it's like, well, why not acknowledge these? It's always James. And it's like, that's valid. Of course, it's in the Bible. It's 100% valid. But I think my confusion comes, it's like, well, yeah, I agree with you. Faith without works is dead. But it's like, I don't think it's the determining factor for salvation or not. Like, I don't think you have to, I think faith alone through grace alone is the perfect, like I said,
No,
I agree with you.
it's just we just want to stick to salvation being monergistic, and that is not to say that
Yeah.
we don't feel like we're cooperating with God. Obviously, we are. God enables us to cooperate with God,
Yeah.
but again, it's God saves us. Our
Yeah.
works do not save us.
Yeah.
They're in fact filthy rags, but a saving faith works. But
Yeah.
our work cannot add to Christ's righteousness. You mentioned
Yeah.
some Bible verses. I can actually read them just and say something for people to understand where you are coming from, Jake. Galatians 3:3, for example. Are you so foolish, having begun by the Spirit? Are you now being perfected by the flesh? So, in other words, you began with Christ's finished work. You had nothing to add to it. You received grace freely as a gift. And so your works cannot add then to Christ's righteousness given to you as a gift. Thus, God saves again, period. And He saves us through faith. Because works can't save us. But obviously, we work out our salvation. Like that's not a question. Or Romans 11, if it is by grace, it is no longer on the basis of works. Otherwise, grace would no longer be grace. So, like, grace by definition, right? Grace is free and cannot therefore be joined with human actions that are salvific or meritorious in any way, shape, or form, right?
And
And
I
that's
was
all we're saying.
watching, I was watching a YouTube video the other day. You might have come across it or not. I'm not quite sure if you did, but it was Jesus and Whatnot, his debate with needgod.net. Yeah, so I was watching that and Jesus and Whatnot. To preface, I'm not a big fan of needgod.net. Like I said, Jesus and Whatnot is one of my favorite creators on this app. So I probably went in with a bias towards Jesus and Whatnot in that debate. But he made an analogy like, if I'm given a phone, like I've got to hold on to this phone. Do you recall what I'm saying? And then I kind of was like thinking, well, knowing who God is, Christians know who God is. He's merciful. He's not quick to anger. He's patient. If you do drop that phone and if you lose that phone, is it the end of your life? And it's like, no. Of course, I think you should work hard to keep that phone that was given to you. You shouldn't want to drop it. You should want to keep it. But if you do, as an imperfect person, is it the end of your life? Or is it the end of your salvation? And I don't think so. No. So I think that's how I'd kind of preface an analogy to the best I could. That probably sounds stupid to some people, but I think if I could preface an analogy, that would be like the best way I could.
Right. Beautiful. So what other aspects of the Lutheran teaching on justification and just the gospel in general remain essential to your faith? Are there other things that you care about deeply?
In terms of the faiths, in terms of the justification?
Yeah, in terms of grace, justification, the gospel, and whatnot.
Yeah, so I 100% believe that, I think you touched on it earlier, that that the crucifixion of Christ, there is nothing to be added onto that. I think that's something I hold to completely. I think that honestly touches on it best for me. If I could explain it, you hit the nail on the head there for me. I think the crucifixion of Christ, there shall be nothing added onto it. And a man, I think the scriptures talk many times about not boasting in anything. I was just reading 1 Corinthians this morning, and it's talking about not to boast in anything except about Christ. So that may not tie together like I wanted it to there. That may sound pretty foolish, but
No, it sounds great, man. And to be fair, too, like I'm sure we do these lives all the time. And when Protestants say, well, they say something, and then the Orthodox go, well, we agree with everything that you said, right? And it's the same. The Orthodox say something, and like they're doing right now in the comments with James, like, yes, we agree with everything you said. So
yeah.
it's not my intention, and I'm sure it's not your intention to misrepresent anyone here.
No.
I think sometimes it just comes down to maybe emphasis, and how we word things and how we look at things. But I do know that the Orthodox like to use the term synergistic, synergeia, whereas Lutherans here would like to see salvation as monergistic. God alone saves. And I know when you ask Eastern Orthodox, they say, no, God alone saves. So I ask, well, how is that not monergistic then? Well, because you cooperate. Yeah. But how do you cooperate with God? Because God enables you. So I say, well, that's monergistic. And they say, no, that's synergistic because you cooperate. So we're saying the same thing, kind of. So, all right. Any other critiques that you receive from the Eastern Orthodox? Doesn't have to be about Sola Fide, but something that some critiques that you feel are just misunderstandings or mischaracterized from your perspective?
Like you mean orthodoxy towards the Lutheran Church?
Yeah.
We covered Sola Fide. We covered Apostolic Succession.
I think personally that pretty much sums it up in the biblical canon, and like was the schism valid or was it not? Like I think they are the heavy hitters. Maybe we can talk a little bit more about the Reformation.
Let's do it.
So your question, I'm going back now. You were questioning whether Martin Luther had valid reasons for initiating the Reformation. So what aspects of his critique of the Western Church do you find convincing or unconvincing?
Well, I definitely feel. I think this one is pretty common. I definitely feel the solas are definitely convincing to me. Now I'm working through Sola Scriptura. I'm working through it. Not quite at a decision yet of Sola Scriptura. I'm 1,000,000,000% in belief that there can be other authorities than Scripture. But where I'm not sure yet is if I'm okay, can I say that this goes above the Scriptures? Can I say that this authority sits on top of the Scriptures? Can I say that? Can I say that a writing of a specific church father or a specific council sits on top of the Scriptures? I don't know if I can say that yet, but I'm very, very on the train that there is other authorities besides Scripture.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that is Sola Scriptura.
Yeah.
And I think, by the way, the Lutheran Sola Scriptura, or at least what was meant by Sola Scriptura by Luther, kind of is in line with the Anglican Prima Scriptura, I think. I don't know if you agree on.
I think these days a lot of Romanists and a lot of Orthodox, if they actually sat down with 1500s version of Martin Luther, they'd be damn shocked how much they would have in common with him. Obviously, Lutheranism has been changed by modern Protestantism. There's no doubt in my mind about that. So I think of a lot of Orthodox or Catholicism, Catholics sat down with Luther, they'd be very surprised with how much they actually have in common with him. Now, of course, there's the select differences. There's no doubt about that. But I think they would be very shocked, with how traditional Luther was with his confessions and how he had visions of a liturgy in a Lutheran church, etc. So, but yeah, the solas are definitely a big one for me that I feel were absolutely a valid concern. Now, like I said, I do think he got prayers of intercession wrong, but I think his Mariology was well. I think Mary is sinless, and it is my understanding that he agrees with that as well. Maybe not in a full out devout aspect like a Catholic would, but it's my understanding that he holds the Blessed Virgin to a very high regard and even thinks of her as sinless. Same thing with, one of my big things is, I guess, like we mentioned before, I'll kind of touch on it again. Obviously, the intercession of the saints. I know he acknowledges that the saints are praying for us as a world in heaven. He just leaves the rest of that to a mystery aspect, and it's like, I don't know. I don't quite know where I'm at with that. I do believe. I don't see why the saints wouldn't be alive in heaven. I don't see why they wouldn't. I don't see. And I think people who say you're trying to give them a godlike power to hear a billion people at one time. I think that's an overstretched statement. I think that's an ignorant statement as well. I think the Bible clearly states, Revelation, Hebrews, I think it clearly states that the saints are praying of us and they are understanding of, you know, I think they are understanding of the world. I do. I don't now, like I said, I wouldn't pray to them, you know, like, hey, help me with this, or hey, guide me through this. But on behalf of asking intercession, I do think, yeah, that's fine. But mainly I kind of got off topic there a little bit just to touch on. Yeah, but
No, it's all valid, and I think it's important to talk about too. Like these are the things that you have to work through if you would ever become Eastern Orthodox or
yeah.
maybe even Catholic. Who knows? I don't. I think you have probably more beef with the Catholics, like a good Lutheran does. They have some papal beef and whatnot.
Yeah, I'm not a Pope guy.
But you still affirm the filioque. So maybe I will ask you about that later. But I wanted to ask you a follow-up question on the Blessed Virgin Mary, because it is true. Martin Luther, and he changed his views on things too.
Yeah, of course.
But obviously he was a Catholic. I mean, he didn't call himself a Lutheran. He was a Catholic. But the sinlessness of Mary, right? So there are two different views: Immaculate Conception, Catholicism, or you have the Eastern Orthodox view of Mary, that she was not immaculately conceived. Nevertheless, she remained sinless, right? Which one do you find the hardest to believe in, Immaculate Conception or Eastern Orthodox view?
Now, I find now the Marian dogmas are difficult for me on the Catholic side. Most of them, you know, not most of them. I should rephrase that. I don't want to sound like that. I'm more on the. I am more on the Orthodox side, I guess you could say. I do think she also remained a virgin, a perpetual virgin. I well believe that. I would say I'm more on the Orthodox side, just to specifically answer your question, leaning towards it, I guess, to answer your question. But yeah, I believe. Now, again, this all comes down to like what somebody believes about the scriptures and stuff like that. But I have a Greek Bible at my home, so I was able to, you know, find the passage in Luke and, you know, get the Greek word and do some studying on the Greek word, put together what that Greek word really means and is translated by and stuff like that. And I believe kind of, yeah, you know, full of grace, etc. That's what kind of that. If you're asking, that's what kind of led me to that belief. Yes, that
Yeah.
Greek passage.
Gotcha. Well, and I'll be honest. I'm of the opinion that Kecharitomene doesn't necessarily mean full of grace or perfectly graced for all time. I don't think you can make that case. Although you can appeal to maybe other scriptures or tradition or make a philosophical argument. I think this is what I believe personally. Or not believe, but I think the Immaculate Conception is probably easier to believe in, because then it's just God by his grace decided she will be born sinless, right?
Yeah.
Whereas maybe the Eastern Orthodox view is a little bit more coherent, like it makes a little bit more sense, like, because Immaculate Conception, the question is why, right? Like, what's the
Yeah.
And then the Orthodox view is maybe, and this is just take it what it's worth, it's my opinion, maybe a higher view of Mary, but then it's a little bit more difficult to believe in, because, you know, what role did she play, or is it pure grace there, you know? Anyway, those are the things that I'm wrestling with, for those who are interested, you know.
Yeah, me too. Like I stated many times, I mean, this is a battle for me on a consistent basis. So.
Okay. Now I promised to ask you about the filioque. Why does that remain a barrier for you?
So this is going to be the first question you ask me where it's going to be like, you know what? I just don't have a full answer for you. I think it's a difficult one. I don't think the Orthodox side even makes sense to me. Like, I don't think there's a way I can even explain the Orthodox side of the filioque way, where it's like, yeah, this, I could even see where they're coming from about this. I just don't even see a way for me to be like, hey, I can even see just a tad where you guys are coming from. I can't. So.
Well, at the very least, you can probably see why they would be upset that it was added to the creed, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
It's crazy, one word, what it'll do.
Well, I mean, yes, and then at the same time, no, right? Because it has to do with your belief in the Trinity and what the Trinity looks like, right? So it's
Yeah.
yeah, and who's Jesus? Who's the Holy Spirit? Like it is a huge topic, right? But yeah,
I think it makes me scared to even talk about it because I don't want to say something blasphemous. Like, it makes me genuinely scared to even have a conversation about it because I don't want to say something blasphemous. Like, if I say, like, oh, it does not proceed from the Father and the Son, it's like, well, then did I just, disaffirm somebody as not a part of the Trinity or something like that? Just little mental thoughts that scare me,
well, sometimes what you can just do is say, "This is what I know that I believe. I can be wrong on this, but if you're asking me for my opinion, so take it for what it's worth. This is where I'm at now.
Yeah.
Might change my mind tomorrow, so don't take it as truth." And I appreciate that honesty about you. Okay, the last objection, and then I want to ask you some questions about the path moving forward, where you see yourself in the future. Well, I can actually skip that because we've talked about icons a little bit in the beginning of this. Okay.
Oh, real quick, I did want to touch on the icon one. The thing I don't want to give a misconception to the Orthodox and the Catholics in the chat. As icon veneration, I don't have a problem with it whatsoever. If you guys have just freshly joined the live, we touched on that. I myself even venerate icons. I have a corner in my house, a prayer corner in my room, where I venerate my own icons. Where I stumble is telling somebody that they are not a part of the faith of Christianity if you don't venerate icons. That's where my big struggle comes in.
Yeah. And I'm sure that you would find it helpful just to sit down and talk to a priest or talk to Eastern Orthodox about it, like just seeing their perspective and where they're coming from, because they might say, well, hey, you're good here, like you're misunderstanding this or that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely, that definitely makes sense. That's what I was prefacing. I don't want to misrepresent the Orthodox Church or the Catholic Church or anything like that. And yeah, like I said, I venerate my own icons. I just don't know. I don't know how many Orthodox believers, priests, officials still hold to the counsel of anathematizing somebody if they don't venerate icons.
The Orientals don't, so
yeah,
it's that. But their Christology is whack. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm saying that because I know I have a Coptics watching right now, so rage bait. You gotta draw them in and then push them out. That's what you do. It's called
yeah.
All right. So what does your ideal resolution look like now? I'm referring to the questions that we brought up and the struggles. So are you going to remain a super-based, very high church Lutheran with deeper appreciation of Orthodoxy, or fully embrace Orthodoxy, or you don't know maybe?
I would say I don't know. As of right now, I'd say I don't know, I think is the best answer I can give you.
If you're leaning anywhere, are you leaning towards the side?
I'd say right now I'm leaning just towards staying in LCMS.
Yeah.
But again, I will defend. I have always said this to my parents. I find myself defending the Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church more than I find myself defending Protestant denominations these days that are completely, again, no judgment to anyone, but just my personal opinion. Some of them just completely, whack theology, in my opinion. Not theology, I guess, sort of doctrine, continuation of their doctrine, I guess, is the way to put that. I find myself defending the Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church so much more than one would even think because of how high church I really am.
Yeah. Someone said in the comment, wait, he's Italian, but he's not Catholic.
I get it all the time. I get it all the time.
If you put an Orthodox cross by your name and then have the Italy flag, it'd be even more confusion. But of course, the author bros would rip you a new one if you did that.
I know. I get it all the
Are,
time.
are you Greek as well?
What happened?
Are you Greek as well?
I'm not Greek.
Ah, okay. I thought maybe there was some Greek in your blood there, but
Yeah. To answer that guy's question, basically, my father grew up a Romanist and converted to Lutheranism when he married my mother about 6 years after he married my mother. So, yeah, that explains the Italian heritage with the Protestant background.
doesn't this guy look cool? I mean, Jake here. Let's give him some love in the comments and give him a follow. Like you could play as an actor in like Gladiator or something. You could be one of the Roman soldiers or something. You got that look.
That'd be sick, man. That'd be sick.
You cannot. You look like an actor. I don't want to say his name because I don't know his name. But when we finish this live, I'll let you know who you look like.
Cool.
Yeah, Jake is a super cool guy. Please give him a follow here. Send gifts his way, and tap the screen. Let's get this up to say 25K likes here, because now we're talking about we're gonna bring up some juicy questions now. I always save the best questions until the very end. So before we get there, maybe what's the big takeaway here? Like, how has Christ become more personal to you in this journey?
I think the big takeaway for me is how much, and if I could really spew this takeaway onto people watching who are maybe stuck in a similar middle ground as I am, is like, just Jesus Christ himself. I know this is going to get a lot of hate from people. This would have Jay Dyer fuming if he heard me, but just Jesus, regardless of denomination, Jesus Christ himself just genuinely changed my life. Like, for real. Like, I was in such a dark, horrendous place. And I think it's your common testimony you hear people say, but it's because it's just so true. You could be just brought out of dark places just in the snap of a finger. It's to me, it's crazy. It really is. And I know a lot of people have more long drawn out testimonies where they've gone through a process of suffering and stuff like that. But for me, it's just crazy how much Christ changed my life. And I think regardless of denomination, just Christ is beautiful and stuff like that. And I love the debates about theology. I love the debates about church history. And don't get me wrong, it's fun to egg people on sometimes. Like, I see it in your comments and stuff like that. I think it's all good fun to egg people on sometimes. It's all good fun. But at the end of the day, I think the reason we do these things is for Christ. I think people have debates about church theology because of their crazy, passionate love for Christ. Like, why defend something so much if you don't even love the person who created it? So I think the people who defend Christ so much, it's because of how much they love him. So I think regardless of denomination, I would love to see people just come together and, of course, have their church history debates, have their theology debates. That's the reason I even questioned about converting to Orthodoxy and still do question it. But it's like, man, Christ himself is the reason we do these things. And it's like, without him, like, none of it's possible. Without, people love to argue about the Eucharist. People love to argue about baptism. People love to argue about the canon of scriptures. But it's like, at the end of the day, I think we're forgetting we have none of this without Christ, So it's like, I think that's the point I'd leave, everybody in terms of, yeah.
And that's the main goal of these lives. Like, I had a Catholic on just a few days ago, then I had an Orthodox on. Now I have you on, who's like right in the middle, a Lutheran, inquiring Orthodoxy. December the 10th, I'm going to interview Chad Bird. I guess you know who that is.
Yeah.
So, we're passionate about Christ. And so it's not really about who is wrong or right. Of course, my opinion. I think some people are wrong, but
yeah.
What I do appreciate about everyone is their love for Jesus.
Yeah,
and
I think
Christ's love for us. Like, that is the main thing, right?
I think his patience with us and his mercy for us is, it's essentially, I guess, just divine. Like, I guess that's just the words to use. Like, it's divine mercy, it's divine patience, because if I had a if I had somebody just continuing to let me down, continuing to disobey me, continuing to, just continue to mess up, etc., it's like, I don't know how much patience I'd have. And it's like understanding that Christ will, have that patience for us, be quick to mercy, etc. Of course, that comes, that's a whole different story. That comes with repentance and stuff like that. It's a whole different story. But I just think, broadly speaking, it's crazy. Like, we'd all be screwed without the mercy and the patience of Christ.
No, 100%. You mentioned repentance. So, on this in this process here, on your journey, what are some of the things that you had to change your mind about, and other things about God that you had to change your mind about? Meaning that you used to believe certain things about God, but on your journey towards Orthodoxy, you've maybe come to discover new aspects of God that you appreciate.
I don't think anything has changed. I think becoming more reverent in LCMS, Lutheranism as well, even inquiring the beauty of Orthodoxy, I think it's only increased my confidence in Christ. I think seeing the Eucharist, I think seeing baptisms, I think seeing, I think, like I said earlier, I mentioned the tearing up I got in, my first liturgy. And it's like, I think seeing that only further affirms how much, my opinions of God really are, I guess, is the right way to put it. Hopefully I didn't say anything too awful there, but I don't think nothing has changed for me on my opinions of God or the way I see God. Only, in fact, confirmed them for me moving forth.
Now, my personal, so inquiring Orthodoxy to me, like, I changed my view on the gospel, for example. Like, I used to hold to penal substitutionary atonement theory, and like the incarnation was something that I rarely emphasized, which I emphasize that so much now, and that comes from Orthodoxy. Would that be true for yourself? Now, I know that the Lutheran Church do have more of a juridical, what do you call it, a forensic view of the crucifixion, etc. Has your view of the gospel kind of remained the same, or are there areas where your view of the gospel has evolved?
Now, the Gospels to me are something I really haven't dove deep into, like determining different positions on the Gospels. The Gospels to me have kind of always said what they said, I think, is the best way I can put that. And like, to me, I've never really dove deep into the Gospels like I have specific traditions or rituals in church, whether that be the Eucharist, whether that be baptism of infants, etc. To me, the Gospel has not, and no theories on the Gospel of, no, I shouldn't say theories, no positions or beliefs on the Gospel have changed for me, I don't think.
Cool. That's interesting. What message would you share with someone who is in a similar position to you, exploring Eastern Orthodoxy or maybe even Catholicism, and they are in this, like, what I call church jumping anxiety? What is the true church? Like,
Yeah, I sat down and thought about this question for a minute, actually, and I think I came up with an answer, and it would be, block out the noise of the people telling you you have to decide tomorrow morning. I think it's okay to take time. I think it's a big choice, not a choice. I hope I'm using words you understand what I'm trying to get at here. Like, I think the words of God are nothing to take as a joke. I think the words of God, the divine words of Christ and God, are nothing to look at and blow it off and be like, this doesn't matter. So I think taking time to really figure out what you believe, why you believe it, studying on it, becoming so convicted in it that nobody can bring you away from it. It's like, I think that's what I would preach, is take your time. Like, this is not meant to be an easy path. This is not meant to be an easy journey. And it's very unfortunate that we have branched into so many denominations these days, because I truly feel that does make it difficult for people. I think it's pretty self-explanatory to everybody watching this that if we just had one universal church like there always was before schisms and reformations and stuff like that, it would make people 10 times more confident and 10 times less likely to argue with their neighbor. But I think the best thing I'd say, and I could leave with somebody who's kind of in my position, is block out the noise of the people telling you you have to decide this tomorrow morning. And I went through this with the beauty of Orthodoxy. You know, I'm not afraid to admit that I almost quite literally converted to Orthodoxy just because I like the look of it. I kid you not. And I could get 400 million hate comments for that. I'd rather be a truthful person than a liar just to boost my ego. Like, I almost quite literally converted to Orthodoxy because I liked the look of it. I liked the way the priests dressed. I liked how they had bishops. It just, there's something manly about it. To me, and I almost quite literally converted about that. So I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for that, but that's quite literally true. So I think once I took a step back and realized, okay, this takes time. I don't need to decide all this by tomorrow morning. I think, yeah, that's what I would say.
And I'm actually glad that you said that, because like people who just decide, wake up one morning, say, I'm going to be Eastern Orthodox. Like, it's like,
Yeah.
chill out a little bit. Like, yeah, we are happy to, like, I'm sure Eastern Orthodox said, we're happy to have you, but like,
Yeah.
deal with yourself a little bit first. Like, it's like, think this through.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, like, and this goes back to what we discussed in the beginning, like comparing the worst of your tradition with the ideal of Orthodoxy, and you think that you going into this now masculine thing and conservative thing, and you're a Trump lover and whatever, so you feel like you're in the right place, and then you end up a freaking orthobro, right?
Yeah.
And that's not a good thing.
And it's like I said, I mean, I that sounds really, really bad and cringy. Like, oh, I just almost converted because the priest looks like somebody who actually should lead a church, or the iconography is cool, or the vibes are cool when you go in the church. Like, I think that's really bad. But I said, I'm always going to be truthful, no matter if everybody wants to hate on me for it. I'm always going to be truthful. I quite literally almost did convert for that reason. And I'm very, very, very blessed and glad that I was able to say to myself, hold on, take a step back here. I went through a previous relationship with a girl who really, 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 we kind of went through this process together. And she ended up, we're on no bad terms or nothing like that. Like, we're even still friends to this day. Like, she ended up really going forward with the conversion. Like, didn't even really grow up a Christian. Only kind of found out about like the in-depthness of Christianity when she started dating me, and really became attracted to Orthodoxy without knowing much about it or whatever. Was veiling like 2 months after she found out about it. And it made me realize, like, I just need to slow down. Like, we're talking about the words of God here. We're not talking about what pizza shop to go eat at tomorrow. Like, we're talking about the words of God here. Like, I got to slow down a little bit. So, yeah.
I have a similar story. Actually, one of my good friends who was a youth pastor in an evangelical church, he's like, hey, Jacob, I heard that you've been attending this Orthodox church for a while. Do you mind if I go with you and kind of check it out? It's like, no, sure. Love to have you. So he went with us on the Vespers. It was like 2 or 3 weeks later, he was, he became a catechumen. And then, a few months after that, it's like baptized Orthodox. He made a whole post on Facebook just thanking me for introducing him to Orthodox. I was like, brother, just slow down a little bit,
Quite literally, yeah.
But that's cool. I'm happy. Follow Christ and trust that the Holy Spirit leads you. That's all I can say. And be good at that. Become good at following Jesus,
Yeah. I think one more thing I'd touch on, I'll be quick with it, is I know a lot, even as a high church Lutheran, I believe this, and it's like, I think a lot of, we were kind of talking about earlier, like, oh, I'm a Christian and I follow the Bible. I think a lot of, I have a non-denominational friend who didn't want to attend Lutheran church with me. I asked her if she wanted to attend Lutheran church with me, and quite literally her reason for not wanting to attend it was because they take a flesh human being and dress him up in garments and gold robes and stuff like that. So yeah, I think another misconception that goes around the higher churches and the Orthodox Church and the Catholic Church is that they put these priests and men on a pedestal. But I think I want to make clear, I believe very much that a priest or a pastor should be in the image of God and not of a normal person. So I just wanted to clear that up. That's something I had written down that I wanted to clear up as well. Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys for tapping the screen. Let's get this up to 30K here now. These are now the juicy questions. I'm sorry, I promised the juicy questions, but I've enjoyed this conversation so much. I believe that you have helped a lot of people who are on a similar journey. I know that there are people who are Eastern Orthodoxy in this chat who are sitting and just enjoying what you're saying, right? Obviously, they want you to come over to the grass is greener on the other side, they say. But all right, first of all, I mentioned follow Christ and become good at following Jesus and see where that leads you, right? If that leads you to the Eastern Orthodox Church or the Catholic Church, I always say just, I'm happy for you. I'm happy that you found a deeper connection with Christ somehow. So my question to you is, what deepens your love for Jesus? What's so good about him?
I think what deepens my love for Christ, that is a juicy question. Sometimes I get these random waves. This is going to sound really like a corny answer, but I get these random waves of just, I'll be standing in my backyard or standing in, my room or something like that in front of my prayer corner. And I'll just get these random waves of dopamine that are just like, I just love my life. Like I live a life full of blessings. I live a life that there's so many people, unfortunately, in other countries and, that would literally kill to be in my position right now. And I think just seeing, that I deserve nothing but have been given everything deepens my love for Christ.
Beautiful. And who is Christ?
I think you could define that biblically and say Christ is, the Son of God, divine and man, God in the human flesh. But I think to define that in a more better term, Christ is everything, like literally everything. I don't think you have anything without Christ. I don't think you have blessings without Christ. I don't think you have relationships without Christ. I know there's a lot of people that are like, oh, well, if this God you serve is so good, why do we have wars going on and stuff like that? And I think they look at it completely the wrong way. To me, Christ is everything. To me, Jesus is the Son of God. He is my Savior. He is Lord. I think I get lost talking about it. I think all the good things you can say about, I mean, imagine you continue to just disobey someone. You continue to, I always like to think of it like this. I come up with weird analogies in my head, but it's like, this could really get some people mad, but I always said I'd be honest. I think I always see Christ as like, if you have a partner you're with and they continuously cheat on you, like every single day, I mean, it's going to be very quick before a normal person would say, goodbye, I'm never going to be with you again. You've cheated on me almost every day. But it's like with Christ, we continue to dishonor him and disobey him every single day, but it's not once that he says, screw you. I mean, it's every single time he says, I'm here, I forgive you. Obviously, that comes with the work of repentance and the gift of repentance, like I said earlier, but just that's who Christ is to me. Christ is somebody who we as human flesh deserve nothing, but he has given us everything and more.
Beautiful. He's our constant companion. Never leaves us. His love is unfailing. The gospel matters a lot to me. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's why I've remained where I am. Um, but as a Lutheran now, what is the gospel to you, and how is it a message of God's grace?
I think the gospel to me is I think the whole entire Bible is extremely important, and I think it paints a picture and explains everything to perfection. As it has no contradictions, it has no mistakes. But I think the 4 chapters of the gospel, I think, are the good news of Christ. They're their Christ walk on the earth, and I think, and obviously his ascension into heaven, and his resurrection and his death. And I think that right there is the good news. I think that right there is what a Christian looks at and says, you know what, this is why I believe what I believe. I think you can look at the Bible as a whole and say, yes, this is the infallible words of God. But I think if you take the 4 chapters of the gospel as a believer and you say, you know what, this is why I believe what I believe. This is why I deserve nothing but have everything. This is why I'm a Christian, essentially. I think the basis of the Christian faith is built on the Gospels. You have this man who was born of a virgin, who is God himself in the human flesh, and had no obligation, or I should say no want. I shouldn't say no want, but knew, I guess my best way to put it is knew that we'd continue to disobey him and dishonor him and break his commands every single day, but still suffered immensely and died on that cross for us. And I think realizing that that's what the Gospels are and that's what the Gospels are about, I think that's what makes the Christian faith.
All right. I'm going to ask you one last question here, but before we do that, folks, thank you so much for having stayed on here, taking time out of your busy schedule to tune in. We appreciate you so much. And please give Jake, do I pronounce your name right? Marchetta? Marchetta. Please what's that, brother?
I was going to say the CH in Italian vocab is makes a K sound.
How do you pronounce it in like Italian? Marchetta.
I guess, yeah. My nana speaks 100. My nana speaks fluent Italian, and she says it, kind of with a. I can't do it. Yeah.
Alrighty. So give Jake a follow, and I might add a bonus question just because someone asked in the comment section. What's your view on theosis? And then I'm going to ask you the juicy question.
My view on theosis is, I think highly of it. I do. I think it's a beautiful. I don't want to call it I guess I'll call it a doctrine. I think it's a beautiful way of. I don't know. I'm trying not to say the wrong words here. You feel me? I think it's beautiful. I do. I don't. Again, it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know, but I guess that's the best answer I could give you is I don't know.
Good.
I think it's a beautiful idea, though. I really do. I just have some further thoughts, developing about it. But I think the idea of it is pretty spot on.
Have you ever watched Jordan Cooper's video on comparing the Lutheran view of theosis and the Eastern view?
Mm-hmm.
It's on YouTube for people who are interested, just to kind of see where we or where Lutherans and Orthodox maybe diverge on the view of theosis. That is, okay. Who is God? What is he like?
I think God is slow to anger. I think he's patient. I think he's merciful. I think he's the creator of everything we have. I think he loves us so unconditionally that, as I've said so many times in this live stream, that no matter what we do, he will continue to allow us to come back to him. He's sent his only begotten son, Jesus Christ, to die for us. And I think that only adds to the beauty of the Christian faith. I think that only adds to the beauty of what we believe as Christians and who God is to us, that Christ was sent to save all of us. And if I could summarize who God is, though, to me, I'd say, yeah, merciful, slow to anger, patient, and as you said, closest companion.